Paul Smith, and I hope you are very well. What are we talking about in this video? Well, first, this is video number 2 in a 3 video series. So if you've not yet watched video number 1, please circle back, watch video number 1, and then watch video number 2. It'll just make more sense. In the first video, you'll see me walking around a live deal that we're just doing at the moment. It's in legals, where we're taking a property, we're going to recycle all of our money out, so no money left in, and it's going to be making round about £40,000 a year actual profit. So £40,000 a year profit on no money left in. And by the way, the purchase price on that one, £107,000. So go and check it out and see what it's all about. Okay, welcome back to this video. So video number 2. Where are we? We're in Doncaster, and welcome to Touchstone Education. This is our head office. And why am I stood outside in a car park talking to you about commercial property? Well, that is a commercial property. The main thing I want to cover in this video is the differences, the key reasons why you might want to do commercial property instead of residential property. So let's first talk about yields. What is the average yield on residential property? Well, the average yield for a buy-to-let is around about 6-7%. What does that mean? It means you take the income, the rent, multiply it by 12 and divide it by the value of the property. So that is yield. Monthly rent, well, annual rent, so monthly rent times 12 divided by the value of the property. And the average, now what's the only thing you know about average? There's no such thing as average. It's either over average or under average. So what that means is, in places like where I live in the west coast of Scotland, you could get a very high yield, but it means in the middle of London, where property prices are very high, you get a very low yield. So my commercial portfolio yields an average of 12%. So that's the first thing, starting with yield. But that's the gross yield. Now let's look at net yield. In order to get to net yield as a buy-to-let investor, what do you need to take off? You need to take off the agent's fees. You need to take off wear and tear. You need to take off voids. So on average, people typically lose at least 25% going from gross to net. Now you need to take off your mortgage. So for your average property, the average buy-to-let property, you'd be down at £200 a month cash flow. So yield getting translated into cash flow, there's a huge disparity between the rent that you take and the profit you make. Commercial property, the only thing that you take off when you go from gross to net, the only thing is the cost of your borrowing. So take this big property behind me, that's 7,000 square feet, that's our head office block. So what rent do we pay on that? The rent we pay on that is £6,000 a month. So that's 72,000. And by the way, you could put one of those into your own pension fund, and then you can pay rent to yourself. You can pay rent to your own pension. So £6,000 a month, £72,000 a year. You could pick up one of these units for around about £650,000, £700,000. Now, in most parts of the country, £700,000 is not going to buy you a lot of property. But let's say that you got, let's call it £700,000, and let's say you bought 7 £100,000 houses, just like you could here in Doncaster. So 7 buy-to-lets are going to give you about £1,400 a month profit, something like that. So you work that out as a yield. This one, £700,000, gives you £72,000 a year. What do I have to take off for my £72,000 to get to my net profit? Nothing apart from the cost of borrowing. So let's say that I've borrowed the money for this one, £700,000, and let's say I've borrowed it at 3%. Well, 3% of 700,000 is 21. 21 from the 72 still leaves you, 72 is the annual rent, 6,000 times 12, still leaves you with £51,000. Let's call it £50,000 in profit. One building. The differences are massive. So yield and cash flow, massive differences. Oh, you forgot the agent's fee, Paul, didn't you, silly boy? No, I didn't. The agent's fee in residential property is paid by you, the landlord. You pay the letting agent to go and collect the money for you. This one, you set the lease up properly. No, I'm not going to charge myself letting fee. Well, maybe I should. But you don't have to pay letting fees. write the lease correctly, the tenant pays, not you. So there's literally your gross is your net minus only one thing, your cost of borrowing. The differences are enormous, absolutely enormous. Average length of tenancy. Well, with a residential one, 6 to 8 months because the tenants change. With a commercial one, 10 to 15 years. You do the work to get the tenant in, sign up all the papers, do it properly. Yeah, there's stuff to do, but do all that properly. Learn how to do that. And would you rather be messing around with tenants every 6 to 8 months, or would you rather have the same tenant for 30 years, and over that 30-year period you do 2 15-year leases? The differences are just absolutely enormous. Now, if you look at that property over there, it's got windows, it's got a roof, it's got a porch on it, inside it it's got heating systems, it's got air conditioning cartridges. If that was a residential property, and okay, these are aluminium windows, so they don't need painting, but let's say the roof needed some work, or some roof tiles blew off during a storm. Who's paying for that? You are. You, the landlord, are paying for it. Commercial property? Tenant pays for it. They've got to give it you back. Everything. All the maintenance, the boilers, the air conditioning cartridges, the plumbing, the wiring, everything is paid for by the tenant. This is called an FRI, Full Repairing and Insuring Lease. What else might you want to know in terms of differences between commercial and residential? Well, that £700,000 building behind me has got capital allowances. Can't get them on residential property. What's a capital allowance? Well, it's an amount of money you can earn tax-free. How much are you going to get on a property like that? Probably about 25% of purchase price. So if you bought it for 700, you can have round about 200,000 of capital allowances. So if that is renting out for £70,000 a year, that means roughly 72,000, roughly 3 years at absolutely zero tax. The differences between commercial and residential are huge, absolutely huge. And I'll give you one more. This isn't an exhaustive list, by the way. This is just the top of my head, talking to a camera. What are the key differences? I'm not really talking to the camera, I'm talking to you, of course. Talking to you about the key differences between commercial and residential. Well, the last one I'll give you is pensions. I want to talk to you, I'm going to go inside in a minute and talk to you a bit more. Pensions. Can you put property in pension schemes? Yes and no. What do I mean, yes and no? Depends on the type of property. Can you put residential property into your pension scheme? Absolutely no. Completely illegal. Can't. Could I put that in my pension scheme? Yeah. So, could I have that? I'll give you the numbers when we go inside. Could I put that in my pension scheme? And the £6,000 a year, let's say it wasn't me that was in there, let's say it was WH Pryor, or let's say these various other companies around this little industrial estate that we've got here, McCulloch Rail, or the accountants, Royston Parkin, or Taylor Bracewell at the end there. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units in this little mini industrial estate, mini office complex. So if you had just one of these in your pension scheme and it was paying you £6,000 a year, £6,000 a month, sorry, could you live off that as a pension? I would think you probably could. £6,000 a month is a reasonable income to live on in retirement. And I want to share with you inside on the board exactly what kind of income you could expect with a £700,000 pension pot if you didn't put it into commercial property like this. And by the way, you're in Doncaster, this industrial estate doesn't have any empty property. The demand, if you get the right property in the right place with the right target market, is huge. You probably don't want to go dump your money into department stores. You probably don't want to go dump your money into risky ventures like Woolworths and all these other people that have gone bust. They're getting taken out of the game by Amazon. Well, what have we got in this industrial park here? We've got accountants over there, WH Pryor accountants. We've then got AMH accountants, more accountants. Then you've got us. So we've got Touchstone Education. So we've got the biggest unit here. we've got Touchstone Education, we've also got Diamond Estates, which is our estates and letting agency. We've also got Diamond Service Departments, and we've got the Service Accommodation Alliance. All of that stuff is in there. Then we've got McCulloch Rail. You've got huge rail infrastructure in Doncaster. Then we've got engineers, TBA. Then we've got more accountants, and then we've got solicitors. So if you're dealing with accountants, solicitors, rail companies, people with massive heritage, Amazon's not going to take them out. Amazon's not going to start doing rail engineering. It's not going to happen. So choose the right building and target the right customer, and you'll have an income for life. All right, let's go inside and let's talk a little bit more, and let's get the chalkboard out. Let's get the whiteboard out and do some writing. See you inside. Welcome inside. So we are now in our main training suite. This training suite will hold up to 150 people, and I love it in here. This is like my sanctuary. This is where I come to relax and chill out and talk to hundreds of people. So we were outside in the car park just now, so we're now inside the building that you saw the outside of. And I want to explain to you, or share with you, a couple of things. I want to share with you the rule of 72. So what's the rule of 72? The rule of 72 is just a really useful little mathematical thing. It's dead easy to remember. So it's how long it takes to double something. So if you're at 1% interest on your money, you will double it in 72 years. Okay? But if you're at 10% interest, you will double it in 7.2 years. Because you get interest on the interest on the interest. So it's the rule of 72, and that's a little practical example. 1% interest, take you 72 years, 10% interest, 7.2 years. Now, why is that figure so interesting? That figure is so interesting because that is a very typical yield on commercial property. So I want to share with you specifically what I did with my pension. Because when I was outside, I said that a £700,000 building, commercial property, would typically give you approximately equal £72,000 per annum. So this is the capital cost of the building, and then this is the rent. So this is the rent per annum, which is obviously 6k a month. And I said I would show you when I was outside, I said I would show you what you would get if you did a traditional thing with your pension. So let's say you took your £700,000 pension pot and you didn't buy a building. What would you normally do with it? What you'd normally do with it, it's called an annuity. And that's what most people buy when they retire. So what is an annuity? An annuity is a financial product. It's you exchange, so you give them your money, so you don't have your money anymore, you've got an annuity, and that annuity pays you per month as long as you're alive, because it dies with you. So your 700k that you've saved up your entire life to get in a pension pot, when you go, it goes. So you've got nothing to pass on to the kids or the cat's home. Or if you don't like kids and you don't like cats, feel free to give it to me. Just, whatever. You've got an inheritance potentially there. But most people don't do that because their financial advisors and the pensions companies and the companies they work for and everybody else says, oh, you need to get an annuity because it's risk-free. Well, it might be risk-free, but it's also pretty much return-free. It's 2 or 3%. 3% will be good. 2% might be more normal. But here's the weird thing. It depends how old you are. It depends how unfit you are. Because the older you are, the more problems you've got. So if you're 75 years old when you take your pension, you've got a heart condition, you're a heavy smoker, smoking 40 cigarettes a day, you drink 2 bottles of vodka a day, you might get this up to 5 or 6%. So the worse condition you're in, the more money they give you for it. So a typical person retiring at 60, 65 years old, that's in, normal health for a 60-year-old, they're going to get 2 or 3%. And let's go nuts. Let's say they get 3%. That would be very good. So that means the £700,000 is going to give them £21,000 a year. Now, I'm not saying you can't live on £21,000. Of course you can live on £21,000, but you're not doing round-the-world cruises and new cars and, the life of Riley, going off to see the Grand Prix like I do. So you can live on it, but on £6,000 a month, you can really live. So this is your straightforward choice. Do you want this, £2,000 a month? Sorry, not even £2,000 a month. Let's round it up, £2,000 a month. £2,000 a month and nothing to pass on to the kids. Or do you want £6,000 a month and loads to pass it? Because if this is your property, when you go, they don't knock it down. It's yours. You pass it to the kids. And if you've done it properly in a SAS, small self-administered scheme, a SAS is a trust. So there's no inheritance tax on that. Because even if you put that in the bank instead of buying an annuity, which you can't, they wouldn't let you, but if you did, when you go, as soon as it's over £325,000, you pay an inheritance tax on it. There's no inheritance tax on this. It's lifetime for you and for your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. So let me show you what I did. I'm now 54. This was 14 years ago. So this is the age of 40. I was going to get, at the age of 60, down there, don't know if this is going to work out, but we'll try. What I would get at the age of 60 was £8,000 a year as a pension, which would have been, they'd have taken my lump sum, turned it into an annuity, and I would have got £8,000 a year. So I said, do you know what? Scrap that. I don't want it. Give me a transfer value. And you might want to make a note of that. So my transfer value, so instead of £8,000 a year for life when I retired at the age of 60, so 20 years forwards, my transfer value was £396,000. £396,000. Now, what did I do with that? I turned it into commercial property. I'm going to put 2 or 3 things that I've been talking to you about together now. So, how much was I typically getting on that? 10%. Using the rule of 72, which we've talked about, how long does that take to double in value? Well, 7.2 years. So by the age of 47, what's happened to the value of my pension pot? It's doubled. Rule of 72, 10%, 7.2 years. So my 400k, let's round it, has become 800k. Age of 54, where I am today, 1.6 million. This is the power of the rule of 72, doubling every 7.2 years. Einstein said, compound interest is the 8th wonder of the universe. He said, those that don't understand it, pay it, and those that do understand it, get paid it. So that's what Einstein said. Now, I got a problem here, or had a problem, about the age of 50, because you're only allowed to put £1 million in your pension pot. That's a nice problem to have. That's a first world problem. What am I going to do with all this money? So if you do it different, so you can see what I did, and you could do exactly the same thing. And don't worry if you don't have an existing pension. Because let's do this, and let's use the power of the rule of 72. And let's pretend you're 20 years old. And let's put 30k into your pension pot. And can you buy commercial property for 30k? Yes, you absolutely can. I've seen lots of commercial property for £30,000. So you've saved up like mad. Your mum and dad give you 30k. I don't know. However you've got that 30k. In fact, I'll tell you how my youngest children have got that 30k, Jenny and Jude. When they were born, we used to get £70 a month child allowance for them. So what we did since the age of nothing, we put that £70 for Jenny and Jude, we put it into a child ISA. So ISA, individual savings account, which means the interest on it is tax-free. So they've both had 70 quid a month. And if you keep paying £70 a month, and you've always done it, you're not going to miss it. So they've had £70 a month going into their child ISAs. When they're 16, they can withdraw the money from the child ISA and put it into something. And when they're 16, they can have a pension. So their £70 for 16 years has actually accumulated to the fact, well, the projection is, because one of them is 10, the other is currently 13. The projection is that when they cash in their child ISAs, they'll have between £25,000 and £30,000, depending on what the stock market's doing at that time. So they're going to have that, not at the age of 20, they're going to have it about the age of 16. And it's money we've never missed, and we've just put it away. So that's how we did it. But, however you do it, let's say you get it. So then using the rule and put that into commercial property, and then using the rule of 72, it's going to double every 7 years. So by the time they're 27, the 30K has become 60K. By the time they're 34, so they don't have pensions at the moment. They're not allowed. You've got to be 16 to have a pension. By the time they're 34, it's become £120,000. By the time they're 43, it's become, see where this is going, £240,000. By the time they are 50, they're going to have £480,000. By the time they are 57, look at that, £960,000 in their pension pot. All starting from a child ISA at the age of 0 to £1 million by the age of 58. Now, if you like the idea of doing that for yourself or for your children, or both, because the wonderful thing is that you can have a thing called a SAS. I mentioned it outside, Small Self-Administered Scheme, SSAS. And you can have, it's just like a football team, you can have up to 11 people in it. 11 people. So for myself, I've got 6 kids. So just me, Anniko, my wife, and 6 kids. Well, that's 8 of us. And then we've also got in there, we've got Anniko's sister, Marty. So, you can have, we've actually got 10 family members in it, but you can have up to 11. And obviously, as the generations get older, before I was 50, I think I really was insane, because what I used to say before I was 50, I used to say, if I die. But now I'm over 50, I tend to say when I die, because at some point I will pass on. And of course, when I'm not in the scheme, somebody else can come in my place. And this is the law. This is how the government gives us these laws. And I think Bill Gates said this. Bill Gates said, there is no shame in being born poor. And there isn't. You can't control where you're born. He said, the shame is in dying so. And I honestly believe that. Each of us is responsible for our own financial well-being. This is the law of wealth. The rule of 72, compounding. And within a pension scheme, it compounds tax-free. So why am I telling you all about that in the context of commercial property? Simple. Because with commercial property, you can actually put that in your pension scheme. So let's go back to wherever I started. Let's go back to, let's say you end up at the age of 55, because by the way, you can retire. Doesn't mean you stop working slippers, pipe and all that. It means you're drawing down your pension scheme. So you can retire at the age of 55. So let's actually look at this as well. So instead of, I've maxed out my pension scheme. It's yielding about 12%. So my actual pension, £120,000 a year. So I gave up £8,000. Could you live on £8,000 a year? I don't think you could. I don't think you could even avoid starvation on £8,000. You can't live on £8,000 a year. So I said, no, take it away. Don't want it. Give me that transfer value. Invested it in commercial property. Bang, 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 bang. Age of 50, £1 million. Age of 55, which is 9 months away now, I can start drawing a 6-figure sum. So can you live on 100,000 a year plus? Yeah. Can you live on £8,000? No. So what is the one single reason why I'm not trying to get by on £8,000 a year? It's my brain, because I've educated myself. It's knowledge. Knowledge is power. So go back to where I started. Let's say by the time that you retire, you've learned about commercial property, you've built yourself a little commercial portfolio, and you've got £700,000 worth of buildings. Because it doesn't have to be one like this. It could be 10 £70,000 buildings, or it could be 2 £350,000, whatever. but you've got a rent roll, you've got money coming to you with no deductions for anything of £6,000 a month. Do you want that? Or do you want £21,000 a month, £20,000 a year, sorry, and when you die, it dies? And it really is that stark a choice. Which do you want? Most people do this. Why on earth would they do this? It can only be because they don't know about that. I can't think of any other logical explanation. Only a complete and absolute lunatic would do this on purpose if they knew they could do that. All right, so going to hold it there, going to move to somewhere else, and I'm going to wrap up video number 2. I hope you're enjoying this. I certainly am, as you can probably tell. And I'll see you in the next part of this short video.